Today with us, we are privileged to have Ron and Roberta Bogle. They are mental health counselors. So maybe correct me and tell me a little bit about your journey, what you do. And Ron is actually one of our deacons. So we're very thrilled to have you today.
We are happy to be here.
Thank you. So why don't you just share a little bit about, where you've come from and what you've done?
Okay, well, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and my first career, I was a police lieutenant in Los Angeles for 20 years. Then I went in the fast food business, and then at 50, I was serving at Ginghamsburg Church, which is a large church outside of Dayton, Ohio, and I decided to go to seminary, or my pastor decided for me, to go to seminary and become a pastor at 50. So I remember I would go into the first class, and a lot of these kids would come up and go, "Hey, are we having tests in this class, or what kind of textbook?" I said, "Don't look at me. I'm here like you are."
They thought you were the professor.
And so then we came here, and I was the associate pastor at Barefoot Church, which was on Main Street. And all of a sudden, all these people started coming in that needed mental health counseling and didn't have $100 an hour and didn't have insurance. So, of course, I said, "God, what are you going to do about this?" And God said, "No, what are you going to do about this through me?" So Roberta and I, we found a building, and it was a God's gift, and we opened it up, just her and I. And so for the first year, there were times we couldn't cash her paycheck because we had to start. So we wanted a faith-based counseling agency with nothing but the best.
That's awesome.
And so the first year, like I said, it was just the two of us, and then we started adding. Today we have 4 offices and about 35 therapists, and we see over 300 people a week.
That's amazing.
So it's really grown, and it's been God's gift. And then becoming a deacon here was my big high for this year. So I'm really looking forward to that. And it is true, you can work with your wife and still get along.
I actually work with my spouse too. So
Okay.
We had a pretty structured organizational chart, so we didn't step on each other's feet. Yeah.
after that many years of marriage,
Yep.
and how do we handle this?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit, maybe Roberta, about do you specialize in anything, or how does that work with counseling?
So Ron mentioned we were at Ginghamsburg Church, and I was actually caring for my mother at the time who had Alzheimer's, and my older sister came and said, "Well, what do you want to do when you grow up?" And I was 43.
I love it.
And I said, "Well, I think I wanted to be a counselor. That's kind of what I wanted to do after my bachelor's degree." So I went back to Wright State University. I got my degree in mental health counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Really had no interest in addiction at all. Didn't know anything about addiction. I don't have addiction in my family. But my first job was in a residential treatment facility for women with drug and alcohol problems.
Wow.
And I loved that job.
Mm-hmm.
It grew me, and I got my specialty in addictions as well as mental health counseling.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was 2003, so 22 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So Ron, do you specialize in anything specific?
I do mainly pastoral counseling,
Okay.
and then grief counseling is my other specialty,
Yeah.
because it is such a big issue today.
Yeah, for sure.
And then as a deacon, I just took over the homebound ministry,
Okay.
because I have a real passion. When I was a pastor, it's kind of like, don't ask me to preach. I love teaching in small groups, and I was always called the care pastor.
Okay.
I just love people.
Yeah.
So like hospital visits, homebound visits, anything like that, that's what I specialize in.
Okay. So here at Ocean View, you've taken over the homebound ministry.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you for that.
And I will say, at Ginghamsburg Church is where I did my internship and practicum. So the spiritual aspect, the Christian aspect of counseling is definitely a specialty
That's awesome.
as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I have a baby degree. My bachelor's is in psychology, and I got that from Asbury.
Oh, yeah.
And so one of the most fascinating privileges that I had was my professors were all Christian. So everything was from a Christian perspective in a time period where It was, late 90s. So, the sometimes was a little bit shunned from the church. And so it was like either it was all biblical counseling, but there was, no psych or, but I loved it. So
Yeah.
it was wonderful. So the reason why we're talking about this topic today is because it feels like the holidays can be very difficult for a lot of us. And so that's why we wanted to talk about mental health in the holidays. So why do you think that this time of year is so difficult for people?
Well, it's kind of put out there as being the happiest time of the year.
Yes.
We're having this big birthday party for months for Jesus Christ. Sometimes we forget that's what it's all about.
Right.
But I think there's this expectation that you're supposed to be happy. And if you're not, if you're dealing with addictions, grief, mental health problems, then it's kind of like you're not in sync with that. And I think there's also a lot of change in lifestyle around the holidays. So you travel, you have parties, you see people that you haven't seen all year. I know our business at the center, we all get together for Christmas dinner, and that's the only time during the year we all see each other.
Wow.
So I think, you're out of your regular sync. And statistically, there are the most number of deaths, mostly from heart attacks and accidents, in January, which is right after the holidays, second most in December. So it's a very stressful time of year.
Wow.
Even though it's supposed to be the happiest time of year.
This wonderful time of the year.
Yeah.
What do you see as some of the most common mental health struggles for this time of year?
I think depression, anxiety, family conflict are big.
Yes.
After the holidays is even bigger. Our biggest influx, one of our biggest surprises when we opened the center was during November, December, our counseling sessions dropped radically.
Okay.
January, we had the biggest influx of new clients and old clients because, again, they have all these expectations, and then they get into Christmas and they're changing everything about them, or fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And then they go into January and they hit a downside.
Yeah. Well, then all the financial weight hits and the decisions that I've made hits, and then so your expertise is a lot of grief, and you've done obviously a lot of addiction. They're very different experiences, but I feels like they overlap a little bit in this season. Do you find that that's the case with the grief and the addiction? Is there an overlap?
I think there can definitely be. I think oftentimes grief and addiction go together. It can just be grief about not being able to have that family member come to a party because they're not appropriate. I know I've dealt with that a lot in counseling. Or that person can't go to the party because they don't want to be around a lot of people drinking and triggers and things like that. So there's kind of that loss with that. And I think with actual dealing with deaths and loss during the holidays, sometimes people reach for substances more than they would otherwise.
Yeah.
And then whatever their issues is, if it's addiction or it's grief, they have to do extra things to try and get through this season. So I think where the cross is for the addict, they're going to feel loneliness and maybe exclusion. So they may drink a little more or take a little more pills. For the person that's in depression or anxiety, they don't want family to see all of that. So they also could take a few more antidepressant pills or alcohol to try and get through that season so they don't look like they're the outlier.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in January comes the crash.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. You said a word that's kind of a pop word right now, a very popular word, and I don't know that we use it correctly. So I heard you say the word trigger, which, is a counseling term. I feel like, our sweet Gen Zs and Alphas are going, I feel so triggered. So can you explain to us what the accurate representation of trigger, what is a trigger, in the true sense?
Yeah. So it's something that kind of zings into you, so to speak. It can be anything. It can be a song. It can be a smell. It can be a memory that just shows up in your mind. It can be a type of a food. So it's something that would go into your mind and bring up thoughts, feelings of situations that are problematic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
And make you maybe have feelings where you feel depressed, or you want to reach for a drink, or you get overwhelmed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's
And I was thinking too, again, with the grief side of it,
yes.
a lot of people feel when the grief hits, they lose a loved one, that they're either angry with God, God's abandoned them, and we'll discuss that later.
Yeah.
But again, the trigger might be, all you have to do is you just believe in God and everything is going to be great. Well, at that point in time, that is a trigger to them, because I've had a lot of people come back and say, where was this God when, yes. So that could be the trigger. Just any of those things can set people off.
Yeah. And then they spiral.
They just change radically. Yeah.
Yeah.
So becoming aware of those kinds of things
Yeah.
that affect you like that is important. And then having strategies around those so you can manage them when they show up, because sometimes they just show up out of the blue. You're not trying.
Yeah.
And you may be doing a lot of things to protect yourself from that, but they get through.
Yeah. I mean, I found that it's interesting because even there's even things that would be nostalgic to me, like a smell, reminds you of the holidays, but that may then trigger, oh my gosh, that reminds me of mom, or that reminds me of a situation that I was in, and it's something that you're unaware of and it just hits you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. In talking about grief, I do feel like holidays is a big trigger for people that are struggling with grief or loss. What are some healthy ways that we can honor those people and those loved ones during the holiday season?
I think one of the biggest things, and this is going to be the hardest, is to ask yourself, because you're hurting, your whole family's hurting.
Yeah.
What would that individual want us to do? And, I think and this is what I do, I think when you go through that, well, I know he would like us, or she would like us to continue on with the Christmas and the celebration. So that's really what you want to do. So if you have things like you have traditionally, go for a walk after Christmas dinner, don't stop it. Go for a walk. Light a candle in that person's memory. Talk about fond memories. And no, it's not going to bring them back, but it's really going to help them feel that individual is there with them for this celebration.
Yeah. How do we handle maybe guilt over feeling the emotions? Because I know that, as a parent, you're wanting to have this wonderful day with your kids, and how do we handle the guilt of maybe the emotion during that day, dealing with the grief?
I'm not as happy.
I'm not as happy as I should be. This is not the most wonderful day of the year. We're all feeling the heaviness of it.
Honesty.
Okay.
And tell them we understand. And you know what? And we have a handout we're going to talk about later to tell you what to do and what not to do. Yeah. But one of the things is to have them understand this is normal. This feeling of hurt is normal. Okay. But to exclude yourself from everything and withdraw is not the answer to the holiday. The answer is to come closer as a family and honor that individual and talk about that individual. Yeah. And sometimes that will work.
Mm-hmm. And I know when my dad passed just before Christmas in 2020, I was Scrooge. I'm like, I'm not doing Christmas. It was over. I had COVID as well. And Ron did not. So I think reaching out for help for the people who are feeling the feelings that you want to feel.
Yeah.
Like he made us get a Christmas tree, and he made Christmas show up. So asking for help is definitely important.
Do you think it's hard to ask for help sometimes?
Yes.
Why? Why do you think?
He made me do it.
I love it. Yeah.
I think sometimes in grief we get stuck in one of those stages of we're angry or we're just depressed, and we just don't want to participate in the things that we should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the most important things.
Yeah.
To have a little bit of normalcy.
So having your support network around you, and during COVID, it was very hard because nobody was seeing anybody.
Right. That would.
But even one or two people can make a big difference with that.
And some of the ones, and that's why we made up this sheet that I'll leave with you, they'll say to me, I know I am really being sinful. And I'm going, what are you talking about? And they go, well, I don't even want my relatives here. I don't want to talk to my relatives. I don't want them around. I'm mad at them. And what we try to tell them is we go back to that list I have and see what it says here that can possibly happen. That's what you're doing. And at this point in time, for a short period, it's okay. And that's the main thing to help them understand that these symptoms are okay. Now, if a year from now, 2 years from now, we're talking about the same thing, then I will tell them, we're going to hook you up with a good counselor. But it's normal for at the time they're going through to have all these, the anger, the denial, and they have to go through these 5 steps, and there's no way around it. You know, a train has to go through the tunnel.
Do you want to quickly mention what those 5 steps are?
And I like to use the word stages.
Stages, yeah.
And they don't come in any necessary order. Yeah. So they're denial, which can also be isolation, which is you're not really processing what happened. And then anger is the second one. Third is, and these are, again, not in order, but typically what we think of with grief, bargaining, the woulda, coulda, shouldas, the guilt, and then depression, which is what most people think of with grief. And then the final one is acceptance. And acceptance can come and go. You know, you can accept it, you can find your peace with it, and then you hit a trigger, and you're just kind of back there, and maybe you're feeling some anger or sadness again.
So what I'm hearing is that it's not necessarily I'm through this and I'm done. You may dip back in and out just with triggers and things like that.
Yep. Especially like if something happened during the holidays, if your loss was during the holidays, then the holidays itself become kind of a trigger.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are practical steps that somebody can take to maybe set up boundaries around events, or, you know, even sometimes it's people that can create those triggers that may put their recovery or their mental health at risk? What are some boundaries that we can kind of put up?
You said that magic word, boundaries.
Boundaries.
Boundaries are big.
Yeah.
And boundaries are, I like to think of as permeable. They're kind of like a fence. So things can go in and out of them. And sometimes we have a stronger boundary in certain situations where less can come in. And sometimes we have more open boundaries where it can come in. So again, if you're in an acute stage of grief or early recovery from addiction, I would say your boundaries might be less permeable.
Or need to be.
Yes, right, to protect you.
Yes.
And that might mean having certain people not be in your life and not going to certain places that might bring up triggers or bad feelings or things like that. So I guess making yourself a priority to get yourself settled down before you can decide how much you can do and how much you can't do.
Okay.
And being able to say no to some things that you know are not going to be good for you.
Yeah.
You know, like for the addiction, a lot of people are going to have to say, I can't go to the office party.
Yeah.
Because all they're going to do is drink. And right now, I'm not at the stage where I can say no.
Yeah.
Or, again, take a look at yourself and have kind of a plan like going into Christmas. What can't I do? Or where can't I go? Or what can I do? Because that's going to be a big difference. And like she said, boundaries are so important. All of us need to set healthy boundaries.
Yes.
And then I think also the things that you hold on to, which if you're in recovery, going to your AA meetings, maybe there's an office party the same night. Well, which one are you going to choose? Keeping up your routine at the gym, taking care of yourself, letting those good things in, attending church and doing your daily devotionals.
Yeah, that's great. So how can we become more aware of our own emotional state? So, you know, I may think I'm doing great. What are some signs just for all of us that we may be struggling more than we're aware of?
Okay, 2 of the biggest things I think for the holiday season is going to be depression and anxiety. They really go hand in hand, but very seldom do you ever see one without the other. I mean, I have had depression from day one. My mother had it, my grandmother had it. and I'm also anxious. So one of the things we can do, and I hate to say this, go to your spouse. I'll go to my spouse and I'll like do a self-inventory. Like the 4th step of the 12-step program is every day do a fearless inventory of yourself. So I will stand in the mirror and say, where am I at right now? And then you can realize, and I know when it happens to me, sometimes, she says, I become snippy. Or sometimes I'll have headaches, so I'm under a lot of stress. Or people will not be able to sleep. Or the opposite for depression is they have trouble getting out of bed and get going each day. So I would say the best place to go, because a lot of times we're not honest with ourselves, is to go to a spouse, go to a loved one, and if you don't have those to go to a counselor and talk about it.
Yeah.
Because you really need to understand where you're at so you can make the plan of what you're going to do to deal with these issues, because they're real. And for people that have depression and anxiety, like myself, I will deal with that my whole life. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that.
And I guess be open to hearing the feedback or even solicit the feedback. Like Ron was saying, how do you think I'm doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard.
She's probably
It is.
referring to me
It is.
because sometimes I'm not real open.
Yeah, well, I know it's hard to, yeah, that's a hard thing.
It's a
hard
hard
to be open to hear, hey, I'm not doing very well right
Yes.
And one thing we did in our group process in recovery was we started every group with a check-in. So like you don't have to be in a group to do a check-in.
Right.
You can wake up in the morning and check in with yourself. You can check in with yourself after lunch. How am I doing? What do I need?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
And there's nothing wrong if you feel it. I will go to her someday and say, I have this decision to make, but right now it's the holiday season. I'm kind of feeling a little depressed. And I'll say, do you see that in me? And a lot of times she'll say yes. And then we can talk about it like, how do I get out of it? And for me, I love staying in bed. So I can stay in bed all day. So she will literally tell me, I understand what you have. We talked about it now. Now get your rear end out of bed and get moving. And you know what? It works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where to have someone that you can go to and trust is really important.
That's great. That's great. So as we're about to head in, we're at the front end of the holiday season. Is there anything that we should be doing ahead of time to prepare ourselves kind of emotionally and mentally before we head into the frenzy that is the holidays?
That's a really good question. So when I looked at the statistics of why the death rate is so high in January and followed by December, a lot of the things they said was a change in lifestyle. So we don't go to the gym, we eat foods that we shouldn't, and cardiac arrests are the highest in those 2 months. Yeah, and travel accidents, again, are the second reason for all of the deaths. So understanding that your world is going to be out of sync, I think having that expectation and then being mindful of that as you make those little decisions, which add up to a big thing. When I go to that Christmas party, what am I going to eat? What am I going to drink? What am I not going to eat? How long am I going to stay? Am I going to be up till 2 a.m. and I have to get up again at 6 for my job? Is that really a good idea, or should I cut it off at 11 o'clock? So I think kind of thinking and preparing, how are you going to navigate those changes in lifestyle throughout the holidays?
Yeah. And that's actually easy. Like to think, like what you're saying is they're just being prepared for it and just those little tiny tweaks. That's great. It's something we can all do.
Make a big difference. Yeah, when you add it all up.
That's awesome.
And again, like you said, going into this, we all know it's coming. After Thanksgiving, it starts.
Yes.
In fact, it's already started on the TV and everything.
Yeah.
Is to go again to someone you care about, your spouse, a loved one, a counselor. And then what I like to do is make a plan. Come up with a plan to agree on. And so one of the things, like she said, is don't vary from your daily routine. So we do a daily devotional every day. We're not going to stop that. We go to the gym. We're not going to stop that. all of those things that keep us going and keep us that homeostasis thing, that nice balance, we're going to do. So we have that plan going in, and then we also have a plan. We tell each other, if you see us start to vary, we're getting snippy or whatever, let's talk about it, because I want this to be a great season.
Yeah.
And it works.
That's awesome. Well, you sort of answered this, but for those that aren't as self-aware as you are, what are some things that would alert me that my loved ones aren't doing great? Like, what are some things I should just kind of keep my eye on that maybe people that I care about aren't doing well, that aren't as self-aware, saying, I'm not doing real good?
And those changes in behavior, like sleeping too much, not sleeping enough, being grumpy when they're not really a grumpy person.
Mm-hmm.
So something that looks kind of out of the ordinary for that person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If it's kids, dropping grades at school, conflicts with their friends, maybe more than they normally might have. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's great. Those are easy.
Yeah.
How can we, when we start seeing these things, what is the best way for us to maybe offer support in a empathetic but not, hey, I'm here to fix it way?
I think there's a couple of keys. I just want to start with a couple of stories to let everyone know that this is normal. Mm-hmm. And I think about the Apostle John. I mean, he's lucky enough to be able to see Christ, to baptize him. And what did he do when he was in jail and he was depressed? He wrote Jesus a letter and said, are you really the one? So I look at it and say, okay, if he can be that close to Jesus and still have his down moments, for someone like me who has depression, it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's what happens afterwards that makes a difference. Yeah. And the same with Elijah. You know, he does this wonderful thing and wipes out all these prophets of Baal.
Yeah.
Then he goes in a cave and says, oh, poor me, I'm the only one left. I should just die.
Yeah.
And then God has a talk with him and he realizes that. So again, that's part of it. And then the big other one is listen to the person and then reflect. Mm-hmm. Don't try to fix it, because you're not going to be able to fix it. It takes a qualified person to fix it. And if you have more of a chance of setting off those triggers by asking the wrong questions for people that are severely depressed or have anxieties or addicts. Mm-hmm. It may be the wrong time to ask that question you're about to ask, and all you're going to do is exasperate the process. So you want to do like Job's friend, the one good friend he had. What did he do? He sat and he listened, and I kind of think put his arm around Job and then listen and go, I understand.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference.
I'm so grateful. And those stories have always spoken to me. I'm just so grateful that those were included in Scripture, that we can see, you know, these people hit these highs and God allowed us to see, but it caused lows in their life, you know, and so we can see ourselves in those verses. I'm just so humbled that he would include that. Are there some phrases or gestures that we can do that are actually helpful? Because I know there's a lot of things that we say that either trigger or absolutely are the worst possible thing we could say. Maybe what are some phrases or things we could say that would be helpful?
I think things that we could do, we're both going to answer this one.
Okay.
I think the things we could do is, I know for me, one of my love languages is touch. So for someone to give me a hug when I'm down and out, that's all they have to do. Kind of like just sit there and give me a hug and go, okay, and listen to me. But then there are a lot of people that maybe aren't quite that close that don't want a hug. So just a touch, like in a handshake. Put your hand, after you grab them, put your hand on top of theirs. And sometimes that will be reassuring. Give them an extra little squeeze and say, I understand, I know. And then, like I say, we really got to watch what we say. You know, we don't want to say things, again, it's on the sheet, what not to say. We have a whole sheet for that. Like, don't worry about it, it's going to be great. Well, at that point in time, it's not great. And then all you're going to do is you're going to step on that trigger probably, and you're going to get a response and then the whole conversation is going to spiral down, which isn't where you want it to go.
Right.
And instead of maybe like, how are you, saying something like, it's great to see you.
Oh.
I'm so glad you came.
Yeah.
I've been thinking of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So affirming
You're
statements.
in my prayers. Yeah.
That's great.
In counseling school, when we're learning to be counselors, the kind of default mode of counseling is just to listen and reflect. And you kind of can't go wrong with that because you're just telling the person you're hearing what they're saying, as long as your reflection is fairly accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're not challenging them. You're just there. You're meeting them where they're at, and you're saying, I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that could be really powerful.
That's great. So for places like offices, like if you're have an office or even families, how do we create like safe spaces where people don't feel pressured to be merry, or, you know, if they're not feeling that way? Like, I know I had a friend that didn't want to even come to an event because they were feeling like, I'm just going to bring the whole thing down. And I'm, you know, so how do I create a safe place for that person in a merry environment?
I think if you can talk to them one-on-one and again, let them know, just be affirming that it's okay to be where you're at right now. These feelings you have are okay. In fact, I would worry more if you weren't having these feelings, because that would mean you're suppressing it, and that's not healthy either.
Yeah.
So this is okay.
Yeah.
And it's really a good thing. And then basically say, you know, if you need anything, I'm a great listener. And then usually when I leave, I say, you know, you're on my prayer list now until you tell me to take your name off.
That's great.
And letting them come in their time and stay as long as they feel comfortable. I mean, it'd be great if they could show up at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to say emotions are contagious if we open ourselves to them. So like you go into a party where people are feeling good and having fun, and maybe that will work for this person. And if not, let them leave with no guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a service that a lot of churches have. I don't know if you've heard of this, called Blue Christmas or The Longest Night.
I've heard of The Longest Night.
December 21st. Yeah, those are kind of interchangeable terms. So I think we have some locally here in Horry County
Mm-hmm.
where you it's for people who aren't feeling merry and maybe have lost people or just have that kind of less than happy mood going on. Mm-hmm. And they'll light a candle and they have a certain kind of quiet protocol that they follow on that day.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Which I really like, because we're affirming that this exists at the happiest time of the year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that.
It's like, you know, hospice has a thing after the first year, you lose a loved one. They have a ceremony where you all come back and they hand you a rose and they do a little ceremony. And it just reaffirming that everybody's loved, we're in this together, and we're all going through it together. And the same way, I hadn't, until we researched this, heard of that Blue Christmas thing for The Longest Night. That's really an awesome idea.
It is. I really like that. Maybe we should talk more about that.
Yeah.
So if we go into, again, we're coming at it faith-based. So how can faith serve as an anchor for us? You've mentioned already just, you know, how could God have let this happen if God's truly there? So how can it serve as an anchor?
I think the thing for me, and like I said again, I can speak from experience, is even when I don't feel it, I say it to him. And we have long conversations, God and I, just spontaneous. And we want to let people know, if you're angry, it's okay. God's big enough to handle that. But then again, you just have to keep telling yourself, God, I'm giving this to you. God, I'm giving this to you. And sometimes I have to talk to him 10, 20 times a day, because I just need reaffirmation that I'm okay and I'm going to make it, because he has promised me. And then the biggest thing I ask myself is, has God ever closed a door that he has not opened a bigger one? Has he ever gone back on a promise to not love me with everything he's got? No. So that is reaffirming to me, though, even though I feel bad and I know that right now I'm down in the pits, I'm going to come out of the pits and he's not going to leave me.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I think sounds trite, but sometimes we totally lose the reason for the season.
Yeah.
And it is all about Jesus. I mean, that's the core and the landmark of Christmas.
Yeah.
And so like getting away from Santa Claus and the lights and the trees and all of that, and really just getting back to Jesus. And that is what this is all about.
Yeah.
And that can be a very quiet moment, quiet time. So finding that time in prayer and just quietness with God.
So you had mentioned this before, and I want to circle back to it, where there's things that we can say that are the worst possible things. And I feel like as Christians, sometimes we're bad at this, where we can say things like, oh, just pray about it. Or just, like we say these Christianese platitudes.
God needed another one in heaven. Yeah.
It just makes me physically ill.
Yeah.
Is there, what are things that we should avoid, and what are things that are helpful to say? I mean, we kind of covered this, but from a Christianese perspective, like what are things that I can say, and what are things that I should absolutely avoid?
Certainly, I'm praying for you.
Yes.
And if you can, pray with the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that in there.
Yeah. And really do it.
And I don't want to be anti-religion, but I think even God, what he always tells me is there is a time when you'll be ready to give them scripture verses.
Mm-hmm.
But if they've just lost, a lot of times I'll be there that day or the next day, and they've just lost their loved ones. Quoting them scripture verses at that point in time, I'm just being honest, is not going to do a lot for them.
Yeah.
Being there, and sometimes I'll tear up.
Yeah.
Being there and sharing that emotion with them and just being there is what they need. So usually my first contact, I'll do very little, and then I let them ask me where they're at. What can I do, or what can I help you with? And they will come out and say, well, I have this feeling or I have that feeling. And they'll elicit a question, and then I will respond. And if it's a scripture they want at that time, I'll give it to them.
Yeah.
But I kind of let them tell me where we're going to go.
That's great.
And like, I can't imagine how you feel versus I understand how you feel.
Right.
Because you don't really understand.
Right.
But you can have a hard time imagining it because it's different for every person.
Right. One of my friends walked the road of grief where she lost a spouse. And one of the things that somebody advised me was just going to get the groceries. Go actually physically serve them without asking questions, because I feel like they're not in a headspace to answer questions. Is that accurate? Is there ways that we can actually serve people and that would be meaningful?
Yeah, and the better you know that person, the more well you could serve them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I thought, what do you need? What can I do? What, it feels like that's not helpful at all.
Those questions are great because they'll tell you.
Okay, good.
And I'll go and ask them, like, do you have family here that's coming over? If especially, I'll say it's a spouse or they lost a child. Do you have family coming over? What can I do? You need anything? Just like that. Do you need groceries? Can I make any phone calls for you?
Okay.
Can I help you with anything? And they'll tell you that those are very good, warming, affirming questions.
Okay. Okay, good.
So again, you want to really help yourself get ready, because asking the wrong question could just ruin the whole session. Yeah, and you have to be very careful about what you ask and how you ask.
Okay.
I know when Ron had a major heart attack that he lived through when he was 58, and I went to work like the next week, and my supervisor, I was becoming a counselor then, she said, "What do you need?" And I immediately knew what I needed. And I was so grateful for that question.
Okay, good.
I don't think everybody always knows what they need. I might not have known a week prior.
Yeah.
So I think suggestions, if someone is really just totally lost and can't put two thoughts together.
Okay.
Yeah. Can be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody is listening right now and feels heavy or isolated heading into the holidays, what would you want them to know?
I think one is there are people out there that love them and care about them. I think that's really important. Another biggie is you can't fix this by yourself. Don't try, because it's not You're not going to be able to do it. You need someone to go through this tunnel with you. Again, a loved one, a counselor, a spouse, whatever. And again, you can call a counselor, or you can call Deacon Ron, that's me, at Ocean View, which our number is 843-449-3384. And we have programs. Like I said, I'll be glad to come out within 24 hours. That's my goal. And if you're not members of this church, call your local church. Or if you're not members of any church, call us. We'll be glad to help. It's not a prerequisite. Yeah. What we really want to do is let people know that there are people that are willing to walk alongside of them through this journey. And most of us have been there and are back. So that, I think, is a help.
And be kind to yourself. Give yourself some space. Yeah. Take care of yourself. Yeah. Self-care, I think, often goes out the window around the holidays in general. And then if there's addiction or grief, it can get even lower.
So that, I feel like that's another kind of hot button topic, self-care. So what does that look like? Tell us what self-care actually looks like.
Self-care for me, I'll share some of mine, is my daily devotionals. Starting the day early, I'm a morning person, so I get up with my quiet time. I try to work out at the gym 3 to 4 times a week. I eat pretty well, except around the holidays. I'm pretty picky with my food. I get enough sleep. Sleep is huge. Sleep is huge for mental health and recovery. I protect my sleep and my schedule, and I try not to put too much on that schedule.
Yeah.
And connecting with my people, my tribe, that's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm disconnected from my tribe, I really feel off. So having those people in your life.
Shameless plugs for groups here.
Yes.
A great way to find your tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's great.
One of my biggest transformations, and she would tell you in my walk, is when I was in a men's group. They did more for me to help me along my road and my journey because I felt safe. So again, to answer that question, I think to find someone you feel safe with. And then the self-help is we've developed through all the years we've done this, and I've done this probably for 30 years. It's called A Practical Guide to Coping with Grief. And it'll be available. All you'd have to do is call the church, and we'll be glad to get it to you. And basically what it does is, for your own self-help, is the very first sentence, grief is a natural process that requires time to resolve. It's natural, and it takes time. And then we go through the 5 steps of grief. But then more important is we have a page of do's and don'ts, like get enough rest, maintain regular diet, don't stay away from work, don't withdraw from others. So there's a whole self-help thing of what you should do and what you don't do. The biggest thing I have to answer is when people come and they'll go, I'm really angry at my brother, or I don't want any of my relatives over. Is that bad? Well, we have a whole thing about what are natural common reactions to grief. Fatigue, crying, anger, denial, anxiety, irritability, confusion, reoccurrent thoughts, lack of confrontation, brain fog, emotional outburst, avoidance of others. So what I will do when they ask me those questions is I will go to that and go, are you having this, like you just said? And they go, well, yeah, that's okay. But then what I do tell them is the other biggest question is, how long? So I said, only God can tell you that. I can't tell you that. Here's what I can tell you. I lost my mom and dad the same year unexpectedly. It was more than I thought I could handle.
Yeah.
And the pain was beyond belief for me. But here's what I can tell you. When I talk to my brother and sister today, we do nothing but laugh and speak about the fun things we had as a family. So what I can tell you is God will take that void that's caused by that loss, and over time he will fill it with his love and his joy. And you'll look at things entirely different. Now, how long? That depends on you, and that's God's plan. Mm-hmm. But that I can guarantee you, and he will do it.
Yeah. So I guess one final question. For people that don't feel hope this season, this is the season of hope. What does hope look like?
I can say that in one word: Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Jesus is our hope.
Yeah.
And again, for people that are just beginning their journey and they're going to struggle more, one of Satan's main drives is to break relationships, to break us from Jesus, to tell the little white lies, to help us believe that, he's not with us anymore. He really doesn't love you, or this wouldn't be happening. So we have to go back, if we're just beginning the journey, go back and ask ourselves the basic questions about why did he die? Why did he go through that terrible death? So we have an opportunity for eternal life. And then ask those questions that so far in our life, since we've been following Jesus, has he ever not kept a promise? And I think from my own experience, I didn't find the Lord until I was 30. So if there were bad things to do, I did them. And I guess when people go, what have you learned over all those years? And you're a pastor. And I said, the biggest thing I've learned is even when I didn't want him and I didn't know him, he was still there saying, I love you and I'm waiting for you. And that to me is what real love's all about.
Yeah.
And you can only get that from Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think our community is so important. Again, when we aren't feeling the hope or believing in the hope, to have others around us who do and can bring us out of that darkness.
Yeah.
And to know that it's a tunnel and there's a light at the end of that tunnel.
Yeah. Which is scriptural, that we're called to be the salt and light.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
yeah. We can be that for those that are struggling, but then they can focus on that too. So that's great.
And we can help lift them up when we have the hope and they don't.
It's great. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. That was great.
Thank you for having us.
This has been enjoyable.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of our Ocean View podcast. Like we said, if you are struggling, please reach out to either our church office or even the Bogles Counseling Center, and don't walk this journey alone. But thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time for our Ocean View podcast.